Hello, everyone, and welcome to Insight Live, the IT Experts Take. Today's topic is going to be covering getting the most out of cloud automation. And I've got two experts in cloud automation with me here today. I'd like to welcome David McGurty, who is CTO and VP of Enterprise Architecture here at Insight, and Sean Gulati, who is Senior Manager over Hyper Automation here at Insight. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you, Jason. Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
And I'm Jason. Yeah. So as you can tell, guys, we're pretty free-flowing and forming here today. I'm glad that you're here to talk about this topic of cloud automation. Now, we actually did a survey question, and I think it's interesting. We didn't actually post the results of it, but it was basically saying, how is your organization using cloud automation? And I think it was, we probably should have pared it down a little bit more to get some more interactivity with it or activity with it. But I think where it boiled down to was the majority of folks were kind of leaning towards we're in the middle of our journey. And I would guess that that's probably going to be the case for a while, because certainly in our experience at Insight and with the clients that we work at, I don't know that anybody, I literally can't think of anybody that's 100% in their cloud journey in the cloud. Can you guys think of anybody who's that way right now?
No, it is definitely a journey, Jason, and the journey never ends, and it's only about making things better, continuing to improve. I would even argue the hyperscalers aren't there, right? So even the people that have all the tools available to them, they're not there, but they've at least painted the vision of where it's going, right? So
love it. And that's somebody who comes from a hyperscaler to us from Insight, or from there to Insight.
Absolutely.
This is like my third day on the job. But I also think, so we actually did another survey, and when we close down this episode, you'll see a QR code that you can hit to go to our website and see that. But I think an interesting stat from that is 45% of the surveyants said that they plan to reduce costs and or improve efficiency through automation. So for all you leaders that are out there, their expectation is that efficiency and cutting costs is what's on the horizon from a automation perspective. Is that fair to say? Sean, are you experiencing that in all of your hyper automation activities at Insight?
Absolutely. I mean, I think automation is a buzzword and a theme that's on everybody's mind. And, we want to be able to, reduce manual efforts. We want to be able to scale as quickly as possible and, be agile and nimble in the way we do things. So with cloud automation, right, it's the same thing. We want to be able to, utilize the tools that we have available to us to eliminate those manual efforts and in order to provision, manage our cloud computing resources. So that's definitely been what I've been seeing as well. And
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
But you bring up, so cloud automation as opposed to automation in general. Why don't we, you're teed up, so why don't you explain what we think about when we say cloud automation?
Sure. When we think about cloud automation, I sort of bucket them in three different areas, right? First is deploying and managing the infrastructure resources, right? So making sure that we're delivering them in a repeatable and consistent manner. And then responding, right? Creating event-based automation so that way we get notifications as early as possible. We're able to respond as quickly as possible, basically building resilient and real-time monitoring for our resources that are deployed out there. And then orchestration, right? Utilizing the resources that we have and in order to make them work with, other hybrid public clouds, other third-party services that we want to actually integrate and work with together. And I think one of the biggest inherent benefits of that is, right, it's all repeatable. You can reuse it. And then, Jason, this is going to be near and dear to your heart. You really build in security at that time, right? You get some inherent security controls and governance in place.
I love that. And you're definitely playing to something I care about. I think so we've got 45, close to half of the folks out there believe that this is going to come. Is this something that you can expect, David? I go straight to a hyperscaler and I'm going to start automating day one and get efficiency and optimization and security. Is that how that works?
Well, that should be the plan, right? It depends on where you are in the journey, right? Are you on-prem today? Are you hybrid cloud? Are you just entering the cloud? I mean, I believe best practice today is if you're starting your journey in the cloud, you need to be thinking about how do I hyper automate everything. And the clouds have tools out of the gate that you can get training on. And the whole purpose is to remove humans as much as possible from the process, because there's nothing wrong with humans working and taking care of our systems, but we want them focused on higher level jobs and capabilities. We don't want them clicking the same button over and over and over. The days of, following the build sheet, or you want it all automated. And, whether it's Azure Automation or AWS Config, these tools were created for a reason, to allow you to scale fast, consistently, and I think, to your heart, Jason, securely, which I think is where everything starts today. Are you leveraging the tools and best practices out there to make sure your data is secure, your client's data is secure? I think that's where it all starts. I think savings is a big key, but I think the big drive today is making a better platform that's more secure for our customers. So,
you bring up a good point, because even our CFO has specified it's more about getting to better capabilities, better security, than it is about cost savings in her mind sometimes. So I think that probably is across for it's not necessarily cost savings at all costs. It's security is something that gets budget these days as well.
Absolutely. Security is, I think, the leading budgetary ask, or it should be, from IT departments. People are willing to fund it because it's real. If you get hit by a ransomware attack or something like that, the cost of that far outweigh any technology investment you can make. And frankly, it's the right thing to do. Let's move repetitive tasks into automated tasks, and let's have our people focused on building cool new things, right? And then let's automate those, and let's just keep going. That's the world we're in right now.
Yeah. So now we're talking about people who want to. There's kind of a maturity curve here, right? So I think, especially on the security. So when you think about, there's automation that happens and has happened for quite a while. Cloud automation is a new frontier, but it's basically, there's some tenets to it that are exactly the same as any automation. And I think one of the risks that folks take is taking scripts or those things that they've always used, or these things that aren't super well defined, and roll into production in these things, or rolling what they've always done on-prem into the cloud, right, without taking a hard look at whether that's right in the first place. Is that fair to say, Sean?
Absolutely. You don't want to automate something that's broken. You actually want to look at what you have today, where those opportunities for improvement and efficiencies are, and then apply the automation on top of that, because that's where you're really going to get the most benefit and value out of it, right? Ultimately, long-term down the road, if you've got something that's been, hasn't been looked at in a while, it's, it's almost like it's inefficient, then later down the road, you're probably going to have to go back and fix it again, especially as business grows, as you scale, and you want to try to do different things.
And, when, Sean, you sit in IT within our organization.
Yep.
But we also have a heavy dev side of the house that's doing some automation and those kinds of things. Is there, and I'm setting up a question right here, is there a risk of having two different platforms? Is there a risk of teams not communicating in an organization? Or is this something that seems okay? And literally any opinion is probably okay at this point, but I'm just curious what your thoughts are there.
I mean, I think there is a little bit of risk of having, two different platforms and how we're, utilizing it. I think as long as we've got governance and management and in place in order to monitor what's going on and how are things working today, I think then we're able to sort of support the different platforms and what we're doing. So my team not only focuses on, from the hyper automation standpoint, we actually go out and deliver, applications and other different types of tools that support business process automation. And we're reliant on cloud all the time. So things that we're delivering within the cloud, applications that we're delivering in the cloud, and we're trying to do it in a very agile way. So being able to spin up resources as quickly as possible that can keep up with how fast we want to move is important, and where cloud automation comes back into play.
Yeah, and I think the reality is, Jason, different departments, different business units are all going to have different needs, and we're going to end up in multi-cloud platforms or even on-prem platforms, right? And a lot of the automation tools are now native to those platforms. So you're going to have some layers of this is the right automation tool for this platform. This is the right automation tool for this platform. And then you're going to have internal tools for helping your business automate processes and stuff like that. That's the reality. I think the design you're aiming for, though, is, and to kind of one of my focus areas is an enterprise architecture approach. How do they help each other? Are we being thoughtful about how they come together sometime in the future? That type of stuff. So that's your North Star. But the reality is different platforms are going to bring different capabilities. And honestly, that should be part of your selection processes. Have the platforms you selected or currently selecting, are they really investing in hyperautomation? Because there is a definite ROI. If you choose the right ones, if you're able to scale, if you're ever at a lower cost, those are all things, every technology leader wants to see, and every CFO wants to see as well.
Yeah. No, I mean, we've been talking a lot about ChatGPT lately. I mean, a platform that leverages the latest technology to speed up the process is going to be a big deal to organizations. But I think Sean nailed it. I mean, with the governance aspect, I mean, that's how you enable enterprise architecture and those things, define the governance model that needs to be in place, and then enable these folks with the right tools and platform to do what they do.
Absolutely.
So from a security perspective, what are, I think of things like credentials being put into scripting and those types of things, or there's a bunch of bots that are out there looking at GitHub repositories for folks that are leaving credentials and passwords and those things. What kind of things, I'm open to what you guys, think about this, because we obviously haven't talked about this yet, but, what are some best practices related to that kind of stuff? Because sometimes that stuff is kind of ingrained. How do you kind of back people out of doing what they've always done and kind of moving forward in the right direction? And I know that's a loaded question, but I don't expect the perfect answer here.
So I'll give it a shot, Jason. So a lot of people that got in the cloud early, it was just about standing infrastructure resources, things like that. But now really best practice is create what's called a landing zone. This is going to be kind of a white space where you're going to build your base configuration. You're going to spin up pools of resources underneath that. And so you're going to want to start thinking about, what is my security profile going to be in layered security model? What type of infrastructure am I going to be deploying? What type of other cloud assets, both whether in other clouds or on-prem or in the cloud you're in right now? And then you're going to start creating configuration models that you can scale out. So anything you deploy gets that layer, whether it's a certificate, whether that's it's a form of encryption, whatever it is, it's going to apply. So you just take the human out, right? This is our security policy. It aligns to your cybersecurity policy and any sub policies under that. You're going to build to that, or hopefully even better than that. And then you're going to design your cloud to inherit those capabilities all the way down to the service level, right? And that is a modern architecture. And then you're going to bring in other hyper automation capabilities to enable those processes. And those may be native, those may be things you layer in, but that is best practice today. You want to start from the top, secure it on, and then you want to be able to just have permissions or capabilities be inherited as you deploy. And one of the things we did talk about the other day is kind of what I like North Star, I like Nirvana, I like, what are the big boys doing? So one of the things that people don't know is some of the hyperscalers don't patch anymore. It's like, well, what does that mean, right? What it means is they've got their build process. Now, these are mature, modern stacks, so containerized systems, things like that. But rather than patching, patch Monday or whatever you want to talk about, they're rebuilding the entire system from scratch. Right? It's so automated. They're so comfortable that they can layer all the software stacks into that system and get a clean build rather than patching. And obviously, the new clean build has the latest security updates. So I'm not saying don't patch your systems. I'm saying there's a better way.
Has an automated process.
Yeah, right? Yeah. Like if you ever built a brand new system, the first time you turn it on, it's the fastest it's ever going to be, right? Say your system gets compromised, right? Even with all the security layers, things happen, right? You rebuild from scratch, it's wiped out, right? And maybe, to your point yesterday, maybe that patch prevents that vulnerability from coming back in. So if you can set that as a North Star, which I think we all don't want to patch anymore, but it's a whole different way of thinking about things. I'm going to build from scratch everything, and I'm so automated that it's just as easy as patching, right? So,
David, think about also to piggyback right off of what you just said, how many different resources and instances, that people deploy to test out things, or, they've got, number of them, right? And part of that cloud automation journey, to that North Star, you definitely want to go in and make sure that there's automation in place where we can sort of, sunset those and turn those off, so that way you don't have those almost like sprawl coming in with instance after instance they aren't even being used. So I think that's one area, piggybacking off of that.
No, and that's the optimization and efficiency that leaders expect to happen, because you're going to save definite dollars when you're getting rid of that sprawl. But David, I mean, you really, I couldn't have said that better. And I didn't really eloquently ask the question, but you picked up what I was throwing down. And so as from a realist perspective, security professionals and enterprise architects who believe that, you don't always get to go into a situation where that's all baked before everything starts going. So any from either of you, how do you fix this airplane while you're building the runway as well? Or what are some good things to do before we get to that North Star? Because we can't jump there. There's a maturity model, right? You've got to be defined before you can get to managing and optimizing. And, or otherwise you're going to automate crap, which we talked about. Sorry for the language.
Number one rule, Jason, don't get stuck. Sometimes people get stuck spinning, right?
Yeah.
There's lots of smart people and lots of organizations. Take a positive step forward. Like this idea that you got to retrofit everything to conform. Right. Let's start with everything new is automated, right? And then let's take a platform or a system and automate that, and one step at a time. But if you get stuck trying to boil the ocean, it's number one reason why these projects fail, and you don't get it is don't get stuck. Take a step forward, progress on that. And the best way to not get stuck is create a policy that says all net new things will be designed this way, right? And it'll be better, and then people will want to add stuff to it, right? You make really kick-ass stuff, people will want to use it. That's my philosophy, right?
Language.
I'm sorry.
Sean, anything to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, I think part of that is some self-reflection too, right? As David mentioned, like while you're taking that step forward, understand maybe why we do the things that we do today and how we can adjust and move forward from there, right? Almost that little bit of a self-assessment to say, we're here and here's what it does for us today, and here's where we want to go. Here's where that North Star is, and here's how we're going to actually get to that point.
I love it. And a group like yours, John, and I think I know the answer to this, but I'm setting you up, right?
Sure.
You don't want to just be an order taker when you're trying to work with the lines of business. Oh, well, tell me the things you want to do. You got to be consultative with them, because they might not be thinking, again, that's back to you really want to have this as streamlined as a process, and it might not be streamlined to begin with.
Right.
Fair to say?
Yeah, 100%. I think the first time I interact with the lines of business, my question isn't, what are you doing? Tell me step by step. It's really, what are your business objectives? What are you looking to accomplish? Okay, then let's figure out how we're going to get there. So what are you doing today that's preventing you from accomplishing those things? And let's figure out, how do we get from point A to point B? I think, Jason, you're spot on. Consultative first, help identify where the problem is and how do we reach to achieve those business values and goals.
Okay. So a lot of these conversations, regardless of where it started from a technology perspective, kind of end up in a culture conversation. And I just want your opinions on this, because, for some initiatives, especially cloud could be driven by the dev side of the organization, depending on what's going on, and maybe leave infrastructure behind to a degree in classic, certain verticals and those kinds of things. Who can lead this initiative in the organization? Or does it always have to be somebody who rises up and creates this center of goodness that everybody else wants to align to?
You want to take a shot?
I know it's a hard question.
I mean, I think
it doesn't have to be us. I mean, just in general, right?
Right. I mean, I think for anybody that is, when we've got resources in place that, many number of individuals or teams want to use it, I do think you start with a center of excellence or a governance team that's sort of managing what we're delivering to the organization. So that way, when it is sort of scaling out, you've got multiple people and teams wanting to utilize those things. Managing it from that central or even federated program can help you actually manage what you're actually putting out there. So that's where I think, bringing it into a place, because it doesn't have to be infrastructure, like you said, right? Like my team, who does a lot of development work too, we're managing our Azure instances and developing within that as well.
Yeah. And I think you also, it doesn't hurt that your team specifically focused on some of the biggest pains of the organization to begin with,
right?
Which nobody was going to argue with that. But, David, you did mention replace the human element of it. People get a little tense when you say things like that with all the AI talk and stuff these days. It's not that we want to get humans out of the business of doing something completely repetitive that doesn't add a lot of value to them, to be quite honest, and doing the things that humans are good at. Repetitive stuff is the perfect thing for automation. Fair to say?
Absolutely. It is fair to say. And humans make errors, right? And there's just no reason, if you can automate something in 2023, why you wouldn't, because you can reduce errors, which provides better output to your customers. It's going to make your employees a lot happier because they're not clicking the same X over and over and over again, or whatever the automation may be. But it's just the right thing to do. If you can leverage it, you should, right? So
beautiful.
I think part of that too is, automation, we talk about, repeatability, tasks that can be doing over and over again. Part of automation is also digitization, right? Where we can take processes and orchestrate them in a workflow type manner, as opposed to, maybe things that we're doing offline or out of system for the purposes of, tracking, approvals, auditability, all sorts of things. So in addition to the repeatable things that are more task type automation, we can also orchestrate processes in a very digitized manner.
A very good point. And I really believe that the people in the survey that responded, that's really what they mean. When they think of automation, it's probably less about the stuff that I keep talking about, but it is more about, hey, let's stop doing things this old way and get to a point to where it's really auditable. It's this process that then we could potentially, move an entire workload to the cloud because we've sorted that out, and then we can automate that entire process.
Yeah, let's get out of email, spreadsheets, shared drives, and all those things that we're doing. Put them in, almost like a business application or business solution, and orchestrate what we do and work within the applications that we're building out there.
Jason, I want to go back to a question you asked Sean a second about the who can automate. Like, I really think it's an opportunity, whether you're a business person or technology person, anybody can really automate pieces of their job or their department and stuff like that. So you don't need a department. Where I think the value in a group like Sean's is your organization is going to need some common tools and someone to explain how they can be leveraged, right? Like if you go into a legal department or a finance department, like these people are hired for a reason to, solve cases and do litigation and review contracts. And you really need someone in your organization that can come in and say, hey, have you thought about doing things slightly differently, and create those, I call them planting seeds, right? Like, here's an idea. Is there a way that we could change how this is done? And I think a lot of people also get stuck on single ways of automating, like RPA, things like that. And Sean could probably talk for hours about the different ways that his team can help our customers, right? And that's not going to happen like organically. You're going to have people focus on specific areas, but a team like Sean's can come in and say, hey, we have tools to help you, and these are the things you need to look at. So
yeah, and I think it's important. We talked a lot about citizen developers as of late as well. We're providing a platform for people to empower. And, once we get to these low code type solutions, there's really a lot of power that with just a little bit of help, folks can figure out some stuff and really do some great stuff. We've had inside our organization, citizen developers develop stuff that we're actually taking to prod now and actually moving into multiple regions of the organization because they've been empowered with those tools. So really great stories there. If again, put the governance model in place, put the platform in place, and give us a support system. That's the organization of the future. I believe that's how it's going to work.
And that brings speed to value, right? I think sometimes when you're working with a central organization, you get backed up and you get a long list of automations that need to get built out. But if we're able to provide the tools to our citizens and our business users to sort of take that next step, that allows them to get the value that they're looking for in a much faster way.
Awesome. Well, guys, been a really fun conversation. We probably have a lot more we could say, but we like to kind of wrap it up about now. Any words of encouragement for the folks out there that we've inspired them? There's a lot of opportunity. I think any organization that's been around for probably 10 years or more have tons of targets of opportunity for being able to do something like this. Give a pep talk or some words of wisdom to these folks that are out there, like where they should start. We'll start with Sean, finish with David.
Yeah, I mean, I think my just words of wisdom are automation is the way of the future. Be thinking about ways to, even the smallest things that you do today, ways to gain efficiencies, find productivity, and not allowing our teammates to focus on more value-added activities. And I think it starts with just being cognizant of where am I spending my time? What are the different things that are sort of bottlenecks in allowing me to achieve what I need to achieve? And that's a good way to start and start focusing on that.
Nice.
Start small, be bold, make the world a better place.
Well said, sir. And I agree. That applies absolutely to this topic as well as many others. Gents, you're rock stars. Thank you so much for joining me. Those of you out there who are watching us or have some comments, we love those things, please. And thank you for watching. If you want to know more about what we do here at Insight, feel free to check us out at solutions.insight.com. And thanks for joining. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Jason.
Thank you.